Okay, let me ask you something. Is it, have you got a minute? Or is it, do you have a minute? It's one of those little English puzzles that can really trip you up. Well, today we're going to solve this have versus have got thing once and for all. Let's jump right in.
So let's start with that exact situation. You need to ask for just a second of someone's time. What do you say? Have you got a minute or do you have a minute? Well, the answer might actually surprise you because they're both perfectly correct. And that right there, that's our first big clue.
All right, so here's the deal. In a lot of common situations, have and have got are basically identical twins. You can swap one for the other, and the meaning doesn't change at all. Let's break down exactly when you can do this.
Okay, look at this. You can say, Lisa has two brothers, or you could say, Lisa has got two brothers. See? They mean the exact same thing. We get the same piece of information about Lisa's family from both sentences. In a case like this, they are totally interchangeable. So, the big takeaway here is that this identical twins rule works in a few main areas. First, for possession, things you own. They have a new car, or they've got a new car. Both work. Second, for relationships, just like with Lisa and her brothers. Also for illnesses. I have a headache is exactly the same as I've got a headache. And finally, for things like appointments. I've got a driving lesson tomorrow. Simple enough, right? But, and this is a big but, this is where things start to get a little tricky.
Yeah, this is where we have to pay close attention because they are not always twins. When we start talking about actions and experiences, the rules change completely. In fact, only one of them works at all. So what do I mean by actions and experiences? Well, it's pretty much anything you actively do or something that happens to you. Think about things like eating, drinking, taking a break, that kind of stuff. For all of those, have got is just not an option. You absolutely have to use have. And here is a fantastic example of why this is so important. If you say, sometimes I have a sandwich for lunch, you're talking about the action, right? The act of eating. But if you say, I've got a sandwich, that just means you possess it, you're holding it. When you're talking about lunch, you mean the action of eating it. So for actions, you always stick with have. And this applies to so many common phrases. You don't have got breakfast, you have breakfast. You have a shower, you have a party, you have a chat, you even have a baby. All of these are actions or big life experiences, and trust me, using have got here would just sound really strange to a native English speaker. Okay, so we've covered what the difference is. Now let's talk about how to actually use them. We're talking questions, negative sentences, and the past tense. The grammar is a little bit different for each one, but I promise it's super straightforward once you see it all laid out. So the key thing to notice here is the use of a little helper verb. To ask a question with just have, you need to bring in do or does. So you'd say, do you have any questions? But with have got, the have part does all the work itself. Have you got any questions? It's the exact same logic for negative sentences. You've got I don't have versus I haven't got. See? They're just two different ways to get to the exact same place. Okay, get ready for some good news. Because when we switch to talking about the past, all of this complexity just disappears. It gets so simple. You can completely forget about have got. The only word you're ever going to need is had. So for example, you would say, Lisa had long hair when she was a child. You would never ever say Lisa had got long hair. That's just incorrect. So for anything in the past, possession, relationships, whatever, had is your one and only option. Nice and simple. And this beautiful, simple rule also works for questions and negatives in the past. You just use the helper verb did or didn't along with have. So a question would be, did you have a car when you were in Paris? And a negative statement, I didn't have my phone. It just keeps everything about the past tense really clean and easy to remember. All right, I know we've covered a lot of ground, so let's boil it all down into a super simple mental checklist that you can use anytime you feel stuck. Think of this as your new grammar superpower. This is the key to getting it right every single time. Okay, here we go. 3 easy steps. Step 1. Ask yourself, is this about possession, a relationship, or an illness? If the answer is yes, great. You can use either have or have got. Step 2. Ask, is this an action or an experience, like eating or taking a break? If it's a yes, then you can only use have. And finally, step 3. Is this in the past? If it is, forget everything else and just use had. And that's it. That is the entire puzzle solved. And just like that, you've got it. Seriously, you now know the core differences, and you can use both of these forms with total confidence. It might seem like a small detail in English, but trust me, getting it right makes a huge difference in how natural you sound. So, the next time you find yourself pausing, just run through that quick mental checklist. Now that you've got the rules, the only question left is, what great conversations are you going to have?